We are thrilled and honored to welcome to our campus the School of Architecture's 2026 PLIM Distinguished Professor, Arturo Massol-Deyá. We are deeply grateful to Arturo for making possible the ongoing collaboration between our university, our college, and Casa Pueblo, the amazing community organization he represents. This partnership was initiated through the efforts of urban planning professors, particularly Professor Faranak Miraftaf's class, Puerto Rico Planning from Below, then assisted by Marina Moscoso. From that experience, the collaboration grew into the multidisciplinary community-based sustainable design in Puerto Rico, a class, an initiative I was fortunate to lead in its first edition 2 years ago. Last year, the class was led by urban planning professor Ken Salo, and this coming spring, Professor Yasmin Crespo from architecture will be leading it. Beyond engaging communities as classrooms, these classes are truly transdisciplinary, teaching and learning experiences shared across different units in our college. And this is quite unique. They bring together professors and students from architecture, landscape, sustainable design, and urban planning to learn from Puerto Rico's history, its colonial past and present, its post-disaster recovery, and its extraordinary grassroots resilience. Through these collaborations, students learn from Casa Pueblo's legacy, founded by Arturo's parents, Alexis and Tinti, a legacy of environmental justice, resilience, and self-determination that weaves art, culture, and science to root a community in place while connecting local action with planetary awareness. If you're curious about this collaboration, we put together a small exhibit, una muestra, in front of the Gallery Café just to the left of the entrance. It shares glimpses of the students' work, placemaking initiatives, the community encounters, and Casa Pueblo's inspiring model of the commons. Those who have visited Casa Pueblo know the feeling of crossing its open thresholds, the contagious energy, the sense of belonging, the palpable hope that alternative ways of living and caring for our shared world are possible. As Alexis Masol told our Illinois students before we departed, he said, "You are family now." And you see, Arturo, we took those words seriously. We are proud to be part of that family. And now it's my pleasure to turn the word to Professor Yasmin Crespo, who will lead this coming spring class and will introduce tonight's guest lecturer and PLIM professor, Arturo Massol-Deyá.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Arturo A. Massol-Deyá. He is from the mountainous municipality of Adjuntas, Puerto Rico, where his parents founded the community-based organization Casa Pueblo. He grew up within this project and has chaired its board of directors since 2007. Casa Pueblo spearheaded efforts to protect the island's central region and its critical watersheds from an open pit mining proposal and later from a massive natural gas pipeline. As a result, new forest reserves, El Bosque del Pueblo and Bosque La Olimpia, were established and have since been managed by the community initiative. These actions transform Puerto Rico's forestry policy and help expand protected areas from just 3.7% to the current 17% of the island surface. A graduate of Puerto Rico Public School Systems and the University of Puerto Rico, Dr. Massol-Deyá earned his PhD from Michigan State University and received an honorary doctorate in humane letters from Northern Arizona University in 2023. He has served for over 30 years as a faculty member in the Department of Biology at the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez. Following the impact of Hurricane Maria in 2017, Dr. Massol-Deyá, together with Casa Pueblo, had led a community-driven recovery and energy transition effort aimed at transforming Puerto Rico dependence on fossil fuels into a sustainable model powered by renewable energy sources. Archipelagic and planetary in reach, These efforts, rooted in Puerto Rico and el corazón of its people, show that a Caribbean archipelago in resistance can claim its sovereignty, and that design's responsibility is to stand within communities in shaping futures together. Guided by these efforts and grounded in Puerto Rico, please join me in welcoming Dr. Arturo Massol-Deyá to the podium.
No, así.
Cuando uno mira todas estas montañas, ve todos los ríos, eso le da a uno esperanza y le da deseos de vivir para poder defenderla.
Nosotros nos dimos cuenta que estaba el porvenir de Puerto Rico entredicho. Y decidimos entonces luchar no solamente por las aguas, la ecología, el ambiente, sino también por la sobrevivencia de Puerto Rico como una nación.
I want to thank you and the organizers for the opportunity to be here in Urbana-Champaign, especially to Francisco, Yasmin, Sara, Ken, Faranak, and all of the new friends that are very invested in building a relationship of this institution with a community-based organization in Puerto Rico. I come from the Caribbean. You must know that Puerto Rico is located in a very blessed location that hosts a lot of biodiversity. Beyond Bad Bunny, we have a lot of biodiversity in Puerto Rico. And for you not to underestimate the term of size, of scale, I just want to let you know so you can calibrate the magnitude of diversity within this region, that if you take into account the whole North America, you might find up to 1,000 tree species in this region. And if you compare that to the Caribbean, this is the number that you will see in that region. I mean, this is a hotspot of biodiversity. The Caribbean is also a highway of hurricanes. So this is the hurricane season of 2017. And that bunch of clouds that you see on your right is actually Maria before becoming a Category 5 hurricane within 24 hours. Hurricanes are natural events for the Caribbean, but how they get strength, their strength is unnatural. There's a contribution of greenhouse gases, and climate change has a burden on how these storms are developed. It's not my fault. This is Hurricane Melissa last week. From being a storm, it became a Category 5 within 24 hours. And one thing that we have seen in the Caribbean is that it's not that the frequency of hurricanes are increasing due to climate change, it's the strength of the hurricanes that we are watching nowadays. And in the case of Hurricane Melissa, this is the 45th, not president of the US, the 45th hurricane of the Atlantic. Category 5 since records began in 1851. I mean, like one Category 5 hurricane every 4 years. This year, we had 3, and one Category 4 out of 5 hurricanes. Like 80% of all of the storms this year, hurricanes in the Caribbean, have been of great strength. That's unnatural. That's man-made. There's a contribution of climate change. And it's not that the consequences of climate change are equally distributed in this planet. The Caribbean is paying a higher toll. But hurricanes, they do help the planet to cool down the region. So this is after Hurricane Melissa, you can see the cooling effect in the Caribbean. So they're important, but they're also very significant to people like us that live in the Caribbean. But it's not only that climate change has consequences on hurricanes and their strength, it's also sea level rise, it's a consequences on coral reef. It's about heat shocks and heat advisories and heat warnings that in the case of Puerto Rico, we have seen an increased frequency and more severe events. The consequences of heat on the population, you can think about people going inside and mitigating the consequences of heating the planet. But for the case of biodiversity, they don't have the same luxury. If you're thinking about productivity in agricultural lands, what are the consequences? If you're working outside, what is the consequences on the economy? In the case of people, it could be very disturbing, including it could increase the rate of mortality, and the rate of mortality or the frequency of mortality had been studied, and it is very problematic what we have seen. So climate change and global warming is a reality. Again, the Caribbean is an area that pays a higher consequence. And you have to also understand the political context of Puerto Rico. If you see me struggling with English, it's because I'm doing an effort in the language of the colonizer. My language is Spanish. I am not a traditional American. They said that Bad Bunny is a US citizen. We are colonial subjects. Puerto Rico was invaded in 1898. And the US citizenship was imposed upon us in 1917. So in any case, we are Puerto Ricans. If you go to Chicago, Puerto Ricanos will call themselves Puerto Ricanos, not Puerto Rican Americans, only Puerto Ricans. So in that sense, we have a US passport. That's the only thing. But we're a colonial territory. So if you think about the burden that is being imposed upon the Caribbean, and the US is morally and politically responsible for Puerto Rico, is the US taking, is the US doing their part to confront global warming, to help Puerto Rico mitigate the consequences by working with other communities and island nations in the Caribbean? Or what is happening in the US?
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
We're seeing cities and companies and individuals saying we are still in, even with the president pulling us out.
I continue to be shocked at how close the water is encroaching.
The worst thing is to think that that reality will repeat.
Everything just liquefied. To not be able to save anything, it was just really hard.
It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, you have a role to play.
This is the start of us taking control of our future. We, the people, need to take action. Our lives are at stake here.
So for the second time, the U.S. has withdrawn their participation from the most important discussion on climate change. And next week is happening, the COP30 is happening in Belém, Brazil, and Puerto Rico is not present due to their colonial relationship to the U.S. But this is not going to stop Puerto Rico from participating. Actually, a few weeks ago, the government of Mexico had a pre-COP meeting with all the environmental ministers from 22 different countries, Latin American and Caribbean countries. And Casa Pueblo was invited to share our views and experience to promote mitigation and climate adaptation proposals. So it's evident that we have to promote una transición ecosocial justa. So we're pushing for an energy transition, a just energy transition, not just a technological transition. And if energy is a capacity to do work, we have gone through energy transitions before in Puerto Rico. During the colonial times with Spain, it was human forced labor, the energy source for that colonial economy. It was inhumane, it was cruel and violent against people and specific populations. It wasn't violent against the white people from the European countries. It was violent to the Native Americans. It was violent to the Africans that were put at work in a very inhumane way. With the US, we have gone through a new energy transition, and now we are a fossil fuel dependent economy. And with the greenhouse gases and the consequences of this model, we are not only talking about being inhumane against specific individuals and population, we're talking now an energy model that is cruel and violent against humanity in general. And it's expensive, it's extractive, it's colonial, it's destructive. And when Hurricane Maria went through Puerto Rico, our energy system behaved like this. We went into a power outage that lasted a day, a week, a month, up to a year for many of the rural communities in the island. And that lack of energy security had consequences on the population. 6% of Puerto Ricans left the island. We have people that die, people that got sick because exposure to unhealthy food at that time. So it's not only that centralized system is bad for the environment, it has consequences. It doesn't perform well during environmental crisis. And then we have, mostly due to transmission and distribution lines that they were exposed to hurricane category 4 force winds. Then we have the earthquake sequence of 2020. And again, now is that earth is shaking. And then we experience again a power outage that lasted a few weeks because the power plants, they have to unplug themselves to protect because they're managing dangerous fuels. And then we have Hurricane Fiona in 2022, a really weak storm. And at that time, the government had already privatized the transmission and distribution component of the public utility at that time, because they said, if we privatize this, we're gonna be fine. Everything is gonna be better. And then with the private utility, this is a better map, but the same consequences. Again, another power outage. So this centralized fossil fuel dependent economy, it's bad for the country and it cost life. With Hurricane Fiona, we had 20 to 30 people die, mostly related to people dealing with candles and fire or using power generators, carbon monoxide intoxication, and other reasons. Now everything has been privatized, transmission, generation, everything, and you don't need an earthquake. You don't need a hurricane to go through a power outage. It happens. The frequency and the length of the power outages has increased with privatization, and not even God will save you on Holy Week. So another power outage during the Holy Week. That's Puerto Rico right now. So to global problems, we have to build on local solutions. And this is what I'm going to share with you today, what we have been doing at the community and pushing from the bottom up. We have Casa Pueblo that in 1999 installed solar panels. We have upgraded through the years. We have our energy system ready before the Hurricane Maria, and we're placing energy generation closer to the point of consumption. We are also democratizing energy generation as more people are participating in this contributing to the energy security of the island. And we have built microgrids, and this is the performance of our microgrids during 2 different power outages just recently with the pass of Hurricane Darian nearby Puerto Rico. So how we reached this point? Why are we invited by the President of Mexico or by the University of Illinois or National Geographic has featured Casa Pueblo's responses and used them as a reference of confronting that difficult reality? And I have to go back to my parents, like that in 1980, they decided to oppose to a non-sustainable proposal, an open street mining, large scale, in an island of Puerto Rico, which is 100 miles long and 35 miles wide. And I have to tell you, we went out, talked to people like you to educate people about how bad mining was going to be, and only one person showed up in our first rally. Yeah, at that time, we realized immediately that knowledge, which is what you gain at universities like this, is not enough. You can know, you know about many issues. You have the privilege of knowledge, but with that by itself, it doesn't change any reality. And the answer from my parents was science, knowledge, traditional knowledge. There's different ways to get knowledge, plus culture that identify us and allow us to communicate in a more effective way to build community is a recipe for social transformation. And this is what we have been doing ever since, and this is the same main square 15 years after when we were celebrating that we defeated open street mining, the proposal. And from protesting, we quickly evolved to proposing alternative. So our proposal was mining is not good for the well-being of the island. It's more important water security to sustain biodiversity, coffee plantation, and other activities for the region. So we proposed in 1995 legislation against the mining. That was 30 years ago. And then next year is going to be the first year that Bosque del Pueblo was designated. And at that time, it's not just a proposal to tell the government what to do. We told the government, you know what? We want to be the stakeholders, the main stakeholders and managers of that new forest. And we knew nothing about forestry at that time, so we had to go to the university and others for support to learn about how do forest management in a responsible way. After that, we decided, we should be protecting other areas, so we proposed Bosque Escuela La Olimpia, and we turned that into a school for sustainability. I have seen your buildings for sustainability, but the best school or lab to learn about sustainability is the forest. Do you want to learn about basura cero? Go to the forest and see the role of the fungi and how they return everything and is go into a circular economy. If you want to understand how the forest is related to water security, you have to go to the forest. And I have to tell you that our organization is also about breaking the model of colonial dependency. So everything we do is not government funded, it's based on the culture of working. So we have been producing Café Madre Isla, and I brought Café Madre Isla for Francisco and Rebecca, so for you to enjoy it. If you want to support Casa Pueblo, I told the students before that you should be supporting yourself by getting good coffee. So you can buy coffee online. You will have access to good coffee from Puerto Rico, and that resource will be reinvested in the community for the things that I'm telling you. Jasmine, this is for you. I have for another one for Ken and Faranak. And Sarah, I'm sorry, I ran out of coffee, but I'm coming back in February. I have to tell you that we have been engaging with the University of Illinois before. I truly appreciate this, but I'm honored today that I have a fellow friend from that just retired. That's Rob Sanford. He was a professor, and Joanne is here. He was there in 2022. We had this short course. We have been hosting university-level courses on microbial ecology, bioinformatics, eco-agriculture, and this is another one that we had a few years ago with Rob Sanford. Although he had been here for a long time and he just retired, he's also an Spartan. He's a graduate from Michigan State. So thank you, Rob and Joanne, for being here. It's about, economic self-sufficiency, education. We have a radio station for communication, Radio Casa Pueblo, the voice of the waters, the forest, and the people. We have the arts are very important for everything that we do. So we have a choir, we have been painting murals, we have a school of painting. And for all of this, my father and my mother, they earned the highest environmental distinction in 2002, which is the Goldman Prize of that year. That allows us to break the geographical isolation of Adjuntas and Puerto Rico and to set Casa Pueblo into a broader landscape. At some point, the government decided to declare a state of emergency in 2010, and their proposal to deal with the energy emergency was to build a natural gas pipeline from one side of the island to another. A very corrupted proposal that we had to confront. So the right to protest is important. Of course, we want to use our energy, knowledge, will to build alternative, to improve the quality of life of our community, but that's also the right to defend our national territory. So you might, in architecture, recognize that structure in DC, but we had to do civil disobedience, including civil disobedience in front of the White House, and we got arrested. We had not just one person showing up in our first manifestation. We had 30,000 people showing up to oppose the natural gas pipeline. We use science, culture, and community in everything we're doing. So when Hurricane Maria went through Puerto Rico, this is what happened in Adjuntas. not with the public utility. This is with the community own energy system. The solar system remained. We reopened right away. People were going there to plug in their equipment, to get in contact through satellite phone with others, to plug in their respiratory machine. We decided to light up Adjuntas and Puerto Rico with the sun. At that time, people thought that we were crazy, but the idea was to ask people in the diaspora to send us, not money, we wanted solar lamps. And we distributed over 14,000 solar units to improve quality of life within the crisis. But the idea behind was to educate people about how to yield power from the sun. In this case, to light up, to prevent the use of candles and fires and other consequences. From that point, from solar lamps, we moved forward to do solar urgency units, to run a dialysis equipment, to run a small fridge for people to keep their insulin safe, to run a few lights. It was just for emergency purpose. And then we moved forward. Why not transforming communities, the whole community? So this is Alto de Cuba, and we thought, the right of energy has to be for everyone, not only for those privileged people who can pay or afford to finance a solar unit. So it's everyone producing energy. What about doing critical infrastructure? So we did the emergency unit, the fire station. We have done grocery stores, the transmission tower for communication, for Radio Casa Pueblo. We have done 3 elderly homes, which we think are critical infrastructure as well. La Lechonera Solar. What about the barber shop? Without federal funding. What about a solar cinema? And for entertainment, for education, to have that tool. Imagine having a solar cinema there the day after Hurricane Maria. Like a place to go, and within the crisis, at least to watch something collectively and somehow deal with that reality. So we decided, with the PTSD that we had with Hurricane Maria, to show Free Solo that is this guy, Alex Ono, who is climbing this rock, El Capitan in Yosemite Park, without ropes. Imagine. So we showed that, and it was full. We look all scared. But I always tell people that it was a disaster because Alex Hono is sitting in the middle of the theater, and it was an end spoiler. Everyone knew that it wasn't that difficult, that he was gonna survive. Forget it. I mean, but the reason that we showed that movie and Alex was in Casa Pueblo is that he and his foundation, the Hono Foundation, contacted us a few months earlier because they wanted to support the energy insurrection that we were pushing from the bottom up in Adjuntas. And we have been advocating for the energy transition. And it's not only opposing to the mines or opposing rally to oppose to a natural gas pipeline. We rally to actually, with Alex Hono and others, to push for the alternative. And we should be, and the alternative is to redefine the sun as the primary energy source and fossil fuels as the alternative for whatever is needed. But we should be yielding as much power as we can from the clean energy sources that we have at reach. And at that time, we proposed to build microgrids in downtown Adjuntas to be disruptive. One thing is to do solar houses. We wanted to go after the places that consume the highest energy demand, that are providing basic services. And it's not only proposing, again, our way to advocate for what we're doing is actually doing it. And this is the microgrids. And as we're moving forward, we're confronting other contradictions that we have within our community. Gender inequalities, for example. In this case, 3 out of 6 installers were women. And it doesn't solve the disparities, but it's like to bring the attention that there's other issues within the community beyond energy, beyond having solar power, that our community has to confront. And then we got, at some point, like, where should we be placing solar panels? We have done, why not doing sculptures? And this is El Bosque Solar, which is transforming an urban abandoned site. We switched that into the solar forest, and it became an open energy oasis for the community. And it's also using the arts and the cultures to attract people to our community for economic activation in good days. And that solar forest has reached the business pages of the New York Times. But as you can see, we have been approaching energy not as a technological switch, but energy to address the different needs that we have in our community, to build an alternative model for development. And as we're doing that, we are also redefining the concept of resilience, because this has been misused in Puerto Rico. The government is telling people, you suffer because you are not resilient. It's not our responsibility, it's your responsibility. And what we're saying is resilience is a beautiful word in ecology. And what we're saying is it's not individual survival, it's building community strength. In the case of Adjuntas, even the food truck has solar panels. I don't know why. So when Hurricane Fiona went through Puerto Rico, I show you how the utility performed. This is how Casa Pueblo performed. The utility is out, we have energy storage, we have energy generation, and you can see our operation sustained for 9 months. We had solar lamps at that time, so we were not asking for the diaspora to send us solar lamps. We were ready, prepared. And then we have the solar cinema. So the kids from the community were going there to watch a movie. We had that tool available as a community response during that environmental crisis. People that needed dialysis, we have solarized their houses. And this is Neri Torres writing the day of Hurricane Fiona, that thanks to God and Casa Pueblo, my daughter had dialysis. That line from Facebook was taken by Time magazine, and they started their report from Puerto Rico on Hurricane Fiona, taking away the credit to God, giving Casa Pueblo all the credit. I do the disclaimer. It's not thank you, Casa Pueblo. Neri wrote, thank God first. But anyway, her daughter had dialysis. So what Time was portraying is that there's an alternative. There's things that can be done to build energy security, and as you're doing that, improve quality of life on normal days and be better prepared to environmental crisis. This is the fire station. The point is, you get test exams at the university. We get tests and exams with hurricanes. That's how we test how are we doing. What about the fire station? I'm not going to tell you about the fire station. The firemen will tell you.
Cuando no teníamos luz, antes del sistema solar, esta estación no contaba con teléfono entonces, ni las computadoras, nada servían, no podíamos cargar tampoco los radios. Esta estación se mantuvo con energía eléctrica debido a que tenemos ese sistema de placas solares. Y ocurrió una emergencia en Ponce. Una señora se quedó atrapada en su casa. El agua entró a su residencia, llamó a emergencia y debido a que otras estaciones no tenían luz, salió la llamada a esta estación. Yo atendí la llamada y fue un grito desesperante escucharla. Tomamos los datos de esa señora y pudimos contactarnos con un personal de Ponce y rescatar a la señora, que fue una de las cosas más grandes que ha pasado con la bendición de tener el sistema solar. Para mí como individuo es beneficioso tener un sistema solar, porque no tan solo aquí en el trabajo disfruto de esta bendición, sino que en mi casa también tengo un sistema solar. Para mí en lo personal es una buena opción la energía solar, porque la tenemos todo el tiempo. Puerto Rico es una isla tropical y el sol sale aquí bastante tiempo. Es bien difícil que el sol no salga. Tenemos esa bendición de tener el sol ahí constante, podemos tener un equipo solar que nos beneficie. Eso es bien importante, creo en eso.
So what is being done is saving life, is helping the community, is helping others. And that's why Casa Pueblo has been recognized as the counter narrative to what the government is doing or misdoing. We even have, because as we're pushing for the energy insurrection, that's the way we call it, we're pushing for a transformation from the bottom up that is not happening as it should be from the top down. So we have our own symbols, the flag of the energy insurrection, and we're raising that flag everywhere, although I forgot to bring mine today, but you have it there. This is the energy insurrection flag. Alex Honnold has raised that in his hometown. We have used it in international gatherings, like during the Climate Justice Week in New York. And during this process, it seems like what we are promoting is not only a transition from fossil fuels to clean energy sources. We are promoting to democratize energy generation, but the other thing is to confront the lack of power of Puerto Rico to exercise our right for self-determination. And in order to promote decolonization of Puerto Rico, what we're promoting is to build the first independence, energy independence. Because we have been told, the narrative is that Puerto Rico is a small island and we don't have natural resources, and because of that, we need the US. Who needs the US when you can produce your own power and do all of your productive activity as you're producing that energy source? So last year, we proposed to build La Plaza de la Independencia Energética and to transform, again, an abandoned lot into an energy oasis and much more than that. And a group of students with Sara, which is here, went there as part of a short course, an alternative spring break class to learn through service. And the students gave us like ideas on how to do it. And they were doing studies on lighting and things that could be done there. And the student had to explain us what they were thinking and what the proposals were. And they came back to here, to Urbana-Champaign, and they kept working, now with better resources and the computer and designing. And let me tell you, this is last year in June, we decided to start building, and we wanted to build a solar projector that was tested by the students when they were in Puerto Rico, if that concept of building a projector from Antonio Martorell was gonna work. And this is the solar projector, La Plaza de la Independencia, and as you can see this, that Plaza de la Independencia is another microgrid. And it's providing power to 5 nearby houses. It's providing power to a business across the street. It's providing power, open power for people who need it, and they go there. On 24/7, it's open. We have rainwater collection, water security. We have communication, Wi-Fi. We have gardens, urban gardens. So we are integrating different needs, and this has become a resiliency hub for the community. And it's also teaching us how to move forward. The sun is telling us the pathway. The pathway is solidarity. Sol means the sun. Solidarity is a pathway for moving forward in a colonial relation, in the colonial situation that Puerto Rico is right now. If you look at what is being done, Casa Pueblo itself is a solar microgrid. We're producing power for Casa Pueblo, the radio station, and the solar cinema. We built another microgrid in this site. So the next level is, can we have one microgrid communicating with the other to improve resiliency among the different microgrids? And that's Maximiliano Ferrari, that went to Casa Pueblo as a student when he was a student in 2018. Now he got his PhD at University of Knoxville. He was hired by Oak Ridge National Lab, and he decided to test the orchestrator, which is this equipment, intelligent equipment. And as we envision the future, it's not only independent installation. I think the next level is multiple places integrated into a microgrid. The next level is multiple microgrids talking to each other. If something happens with one, it won't compromise the whole island. And actually, the other microgrids could help sustain microgrids that might get damaged, because technology, I mean, they get damaged as well. And what we're doing right now is promoting a non-traditional learning laboratory. I know that Maximiliano is working at the National Lab at Oak Ridge, but we're going to have our Puerto Rican Community Energy Lab. It's not about theoretical or simulations. It's about real variables. It's about real environmental variables, human consumption variables, to learn from what is being done in Adjuntas and to draw lessons that can be used to improve the technology, to improve better designs, to help other communities for education, for capacity building, for testing new technologies side by side with technologies that have been already in place. I know that in academia you have to publish. We have 5 peer-reviewed articles this year in 2025 that are related to Casa Pueblo, including about energy and health, energy and the arts, energy and microgrids. And as we're moving forward, we're talking to other universities because we want this national lab, Puerto Rican Community Lab, being in sync with other institutions. And there's one missing letter that hopefully will be added after this trip. So with that, we're pushing for energy independence for Puerto Rico now, not in 2050. We want to build energy independence now. And if you want to know more about Casa Pueblo, you can visit us online. You can order our coffee. And if you go to that webpage, you can see this film, Casa Pueblo, La Gota que se vuelve agua. That film about Casa Pueblo with English subtitles was done by Filme Zapatero. Filme Zapatero is the one who recorded Baile Inolvidable, the Bad Bunny. He's the one who do music videos for Bad Bunny, Juanes, and others. He did this piece for Casa Pueblo pro bono. We have the Energy Lab. If you want to donate or you want to learn more about the Energy Lab, you can order Café Madre Isla. You can donate if you want to help us and support. You have access to the radio station, to our archive. We have our own newspaper, Adjuntas Pueblo Solar. So with that, I want to stop. And maybe, and I forgot before, but I have these cards that you can take. We were invited by Bad Bunny to his residency, and we showcased what we were doing. And I know there's a quote, Debí tomar cuál clase? What's the name of the? Arch 499. So debí tomar Arch 499. Or so you can visit and learn more about Casa Pueblo. So this is the information about Casa Pueblo, if you can help me, and the reasons of why we're pushing for this energy independence. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We can take some questions now. Any questions in the audience?
In English and in Spanish. Spanglish is also welcome. Yes.
Alexis, I have a question to start. You have provided an incredible blueprint, not just for Adjuntas, but for any one of the other 78 municipalities in the island. Have you received any acercamiento, like any contact from any of the other municipalities interested in doing something similar?
We're getting visitations every day, every week. People are interested, they see that it works, and they go to Casa Pueblo to learn more. We're helping a school in Luquillo that they have been taken by the community and they want to build their own alternative and resiliency hub. We're helping a group of in sports that they want to transform some football courts into a solar system and also to become an energy oasis for their neighbors. We have done installations in Dominican Republic where Haitians and Dominicans of Haitian descent are living under slavery, post-new slavery conditions. So if you pay low for sugar, it's because you have Haitians under very nasty conditions without power, electricity, or water, running water in their batalles. So we have been doing installations for human rights and to bring those violations to the attentions of others. We're heading to Mexico, to Puebla in 2 weeks. We were in the República Democrática del Congo. He's going through an energy transition. La Habana, Cuba, they want to build their own solar cinema, and we have been in a way supporting. We have been in Brazil and others. So we have this sense of commitment that what we're doing is not only for the local benefit, we're doing this not for saving individuals. It's part of what is being done, but the idea is to promote justice, energy justice for others in Puerto Rico and other parts of the Caribbean and Latin America.
Gracias, Arturo. I wanted to just say thank you very much on behalf of Faranak. It's a 2 años Duolingo, so later. I have 4, last year was 4, but there are 3 students who, just to echo the experiences is life-changing. So I'm not sure to reconnect with them again, but it's really just a way to encourage, the students who are considering going to please think about joining Yasmin's class. But I also wanted you, when you have the chance, to share with the audience the growing concern of the militarization in the Caribbean and the dangerous situation that's evolving there and what that means for these beautiful projects. Thank you.
Can we have one of those students that have been in Puerto Rico to to say something that they cannot, your own voice is important.
Hi, my name is Leilani. I visited Casa Pueblo this past March with my cohort, and I just wanted to say, anyone who's interested in going on this trip, I really encourage them to. It was honestly a very life-changing trip, just speaking to a lot of the people there and how this energy independence makes such a big impact on their daily lives, from just visiting people in their homes and like the people welcoming us in and like speaking to people just like on corner stores. It was a very beautiful trip and it's very inspiring, so yeah.
Thank you. And if you're interested in applying, the application deadline is November 7.
There's a video, the testimony. There's some, I saw at the other building another exposition, so I don't know, I feel like overwhelmed with Casa Pueblo here. With remilitarization, Puerto Rico has been a strategic place that has been used by the U.S. Since the beginning. There was this island, Vieques, that was used for 60 years as a bombing range. And the highest cancer rate in Puerto Rico is that population that live in that offshore, is next to the main island of Puerto Rico. We did a lot of work for 20 years. We studied degradation of explosive, my biological part, like doing microbial ecology, describing biodiversity that can be used, microbial diversity that can be used to clean up sites like that. But it won't save or clean that place for good. You can reduce the risk of some exposure, but the consequences of the military actions in Puerto Rico, they're not only limited to Vieques, also to Culebra, and many military bases were installed in Puerto Rico. In 1999, from 2001, the Puerto Rican got together with civil disobedient camps, and they stopped the U.S. Navy from bombing the island of Vieques, and at least some peace was achieved. There's all of the cicatrices, no? The environmental consequences are still there, but there was some peace related to no more military activities in Puerto Rico. Trump, he denies, he doesn't talk about Puerto Rico. The only thing that you saw with Donald Trump is when the NBA season started a week ago, he was like throwing paper towel, a very disgraced image, because that's what he did. That's the footage when Donald Trump went to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. And people were really, really annoyed, to say the least, related to that. So he's not doing anything for Puerto Rico. We are paying all the consequences. Dominicans who are living in Puerto Rico, contributing to our economy in a very productive way, are being expelled by ICE activity in the island. And now what you see is remilitarization. They're using other non-traditional sites for the U.S. Navy to practice. They reopened the Ceiba Naval Base, and they're training with airplanes and helicopters making noise, not to help Puerto Rico, not to help the Caribbean, to be aggressive to another nation that we might not like their president, but it's not up to us to be violent against anyone in the Caribbean, and much less to our South American neighbors. So this is what is going on right now. Very complicated. And you have it complicated here. But in Puerto Rico, it's also a very difficult time. And when you see all the depression that is happening in the island, you need to build the alternative, because the hope for keeping Puerto Rico as an island nation has to be real. And we have to fight for the viability of Puerto Rico as an island nation, regardless of Donald Trump or regardless of whoever is in the US Congress or making decisions upon Puerto Rico. So if you want to learn about decolonial strategies beyond architecture, if you want to learn and do radical architecture, the radical architecture is not to keep the same system viable. Radical architecture is to transform our reality to a better condition. And I invite you to learn more about Casa Pueblo, to visit us if you visit Puerto Rico at some time, and if not, to be part of that course and be there for a week or more. Oh, I thought I was going to say thank you, but...
realize that we are measuring wealthy based on official standards. And so I wonder what's your take on, measuring wealthy under different standards, for example, sovereignty.
Well, what we're thinking is, as we're building energy independence, can we use that energy to do productive activities that can help break the cycle of poverty? And this is like a proposal that I brought for these spring breakers. Can we do in Alto de Cuba the excess amount of energy that is being used? Can we use it for example, planting hydroponics for food security, some? Or can they plant and grow something that can be sold? And break the model of dependency, not with more dependency, not by giving you, but by the culture of work. Let's use that energy to work and produce good things that can be used to reduce poverty. This is a hydroponics because I think it's a simple thing, but can we use that excess amount of power to build something else, to do other things that can be used by people to improve their quality of life? We're reducing the energy burden by 50%, so it's helping the community in a way. It's not enough, but poverty in Adjuntas, relatively to the numbers, I mean, we're not working in a privileged community. We're not working with white, wealthy people who wants to recycle things, to feel good about themselves. We're working in a battleground in which all of these injustices and inequalities are there, and we don't have the solutions. We're working on the solutions, and that's why working with the University of Illinois and others is a way to gain new knowledge and to think about questions like that and build those pathways for change. With that, I think I want to thank you again, and please visit us at Casa Pueblo de Adjuntas. Thank you.